expressions. So basically they're going to be writing things out in words, and we are going to need to be able to write it out with like numbers and symbols. And so translating verbal phrases. So if addition occurs when we see the words like sum, plus, total, more than, increase by, subtraction, we would see the words difference, less than, minus, or decrease by, multiplication, we'll have times, product, multiplied by, of, and finally division. The words quotient, divided by, divided into, I can't spell. And it's really important to pay attention, specifically with subtraction and division, to the order that it writes things, because that can make a difference, okay? Like, x divided by 2 would be x over 2, not 2 over x. So just the wording and the order of it is very important to make sure that we're paying attention to that. And then the other thing that we'll be doing in here are rates. And so a rate is a fraction that compares two quantities. Measured in different units. One very common one that you see, well, if you're paying attention, that you see every day would be, you would see this mph, which is miles per hour. So that's what a rate would look like. It's a fraction that's comparing two quantities with different units. And sometimes that requires us to do conversions. They might give us something in miles per hour and we need to convert it to, say, like feet per second or something like that. So the first problems we're going to look at are translating the phrase, and so it's just literally rewriting the verbal phrase as an expression. So we have number 4, the product of 6 and a number y. So if you see product of, what does that tell us that we're going to be doing? Say it louder. Yep, multiplication. So product of 6 and a number y is just 6 times y. Anytime we have a number in a variable, we don't actually have to put the multiplication symbol. Just them touching tells you that it is multiplication. But if you want to put the little multiplication symbol in there, you can. $6.50 divided by a number h. So this is one where the order really matters on this, because if it's a divided by, and if we write them backwards, it means something totally different. So this is 50 divided by a number h. That means that we have 50 over h. Number 8, the sum of 15 and a number x. Yep, 15 plus x. Now, this one could also be x plus 15, but just to keep in following the order of things, I would keep it as 15 plus x instead of x plus 15. But for addition and multiplication, it doesn't matter which order it's in, but division and subtraction would matter because it makes a totally different value, like when you're subtracting or dividing. 10. 3 less than the square of a number p. Close. So it's 3 less than the square of a number p. So this one is actually written backwards for how it needs to be. It's 3 less than whatever p squared is. So this one's going to be p squared minus 3. So the wording can be a little tricky, so that's why it's really important that we pay attention to it so that we'll figure out which way is which. They still throw me off sometimes too, so don't think it's like, oh, she just knows them all. No, sometimes they throw me off too. 12. 5 more than 3 times a number w. How would I do this one?
Plus w times 3.
Yeah, saying it's kind of challenging, but it would be 3w plus 5, or 5 plus 3w is absolutely fine. But it would be like that. All right, questions about those ones before we get into the next little set? All right, the next ones are, they kind of give us like more of a, I'm going to say like a real life scenario with this, but it's not really anything super crazy. It's basically just what we were doing, just with something more practical. 16, the number of pages of a 5-page article left to read. If you have read P pages. What do we think about this one? This one's a little bit more confusing.
Five minus P.
Yep, so we had a 5-page article. We've already read P, so if we want to figure out what's left, we have to subtract off the amount that we've read. So 5 minus P. $18. The amount you spend. Bless you. If you buy a shirt for $20. And jeans for $J. Yep, 20 plus J. Total amount we spent. All right, one more of these. 20. Number of hours in M minutes. This one's a little bit more, you have to think because they didn't give us all of our information here.
It'd be 0. I think 6.
Well,
decimal times that.
I think I know where you're going with it, but not quite how we want to set it up. How many minutes are in an hour?
60.
So if I'm dealing with minutes, I'm going to have my M minutes on top over the number of minutes in an hour, which is 60. That one's a little bit more confusing than the other ones, but they usually aren't quite that confusing. Questions on these? All right, our last stuff is the rates, and so we're going to be converting the rate that we're given into feet per second. So let me just note that here. So we're going to be finding feet per second, but we're given something else. And so number 22, we have 300 yards in 1 minute. Now, I'm going to teach you my method. You want to do it a different way, that's fine, but I'm trying to get you ready for your future in both math and science. So we're going to do our conversions using a T-chart. Okay? So what that means is I set up a conversion table here so that I can get my units switched. Now, in this case, I have yards and minutes given to me, and I want to get to feet and seconds. Okay? So that means I have to change both things. Sometimes you only have to change one, but in this case, we have to change both. So let's start with yards to feet first. How many feet are in a yard? Okay, so there's 3 feet in a yard. So I'm going to put 3 feet in 1 yard as my next conversion. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cancel my units. Okay, so I've gotten rid of yards, and I now have feet. The next thing is I need to get minutes to seconds. So how many seconds are in a minute? So I'm going to have my 1 minute up here because I want my units to cancel. So that's what I'm looking for is I need it top and bottom. Just like if I have the fraction, like if I have 2 times 1/4, I'm trying to get things to reduce. I'm doing the same thing but with my units. I'm trying to cancel out things that are the same. So 1 minute is 60 seconds. And now I can cancel minutes. And then what we do is we multiply across the top and then we divide by the bottom. So I have 300 times 3 is what? So I have 900 divided by 60. I don't know if you've seen this really cool trick before, but if you have things that are being divided and they both end in a 0, we can cross it out. So I now have 90 divided by 6. Anybody know what that is? 15. So this would be 15 feet per second. Okay, now some of them are a little bit, like they're going to end up potentially giving you decimal answers. So you may have to grab a calculator for those on the quiz. Since you won't have a calculator, I'll try to make sure that it's one that is easily, like this, where it's like easy to figure out what it is, or that it like comes out to something that's whole, or you could just leave it as a fraction if you don't have a calculator, you can't figure it out. 24. 180 miles over 2 hours. So I'm still going to feet per second, and I'm currently in miles and hours. Anybody remember how many feet are in a mile?
5,280.
Yep, 5,280. That goes up here in 1 mile, so that my miles can cancel. And then I need to go from hours to seconds. Does anybody know how many seconds are in an hour?
Like that. 3,600.
Yep, 3,600. Now, if you didn't know that, you could do it out in going from hours to minutes. I'll show that as well. So there are, in 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. I need to get to seconds. So in 1 minute, there are 60 seconds. And so then we would have that. Now, I have to multiply across the top. This is a big one. I would just say grab a calculator if you have one. That's what I'm going to do, to be honest, because I don't feel like multiplying that in my head. So 180 times 5,280 is 950,400. And then on the bottom, we multiply across the bottom as well. So that is 60 times 60 times 2. And we get 7,200. I'm going to do my fancy little cancel out the zeros trick. If there's multiple zeros at the end, you can cancel them out. So now I have 9,504 divided by 72. And that gives me 132 feet per second. So like I said, if you have a calculator on one that's that crazy, just go ahead and use it and make your life easier. If you want to multiply it out the old-fashioned way by hand and do that, you're absolutely welcome to do that. Just going to take a little bit of time. Questions on any of those? All right, problems for this section. 3 through 25 odd. Before you start doing your homework, though, let me hand back some of the other homework because I've made comments on how it's laid out and things like that. Because some of you are not quite following instructions.